Post-Apocalyptic STRAYVEN commission with a ton of details, fake rust, fake wood, 3D printed parts, LEDs and lots more. This is Falling Sky. Hello friends, hello YouTube, how are you guys doing? Rainbow here with another Nerf mod video, and today I want to show to you a post-apocalyptic LARP commission that I have been working on for the last couple of months, and it turned out so beautiful. This is Falling Sky, or by its full name, MIAPR LS-66 Falling Sky. And before we talk about the details, here's a quick overview. So here we are, let's talk about this. Story first. This is a LARP commission, which is, by the time you're watching this video, probably already in the hands of the client. And it was commissioned at the start of this year. It was meant to be played at a post-apocalyptic LARP event this year, which sadly didn't happen. But it gave me a little bit more time to work on it, and also it gave both of us more time to incorporate new ideas into this build. Because he started off by saying, look, I like the STRAYVENs that you built. He saw Stormbreaker and he was like, yep, liking this one. I want one for post-apocalyptic scenario. And I'm like, no worries, I can make that. And the more we talked about it and the more time went by and the more ideas we had, it turned into this. As you can see, this is not a standard STRAYVEN build, and by no means was it a standard STRAYVEN build. About halfway through, I was like, oh, where's this going? And then I'm so happy that I stuck with the plan and it turned out fantastic. But let's talk about all the details on here. First off, I only did the cosmetics. So internally at the moment, there's only the LED circuits and things that I put in place. So it has no motors, no cage and nothing, because he wanted to do that himself. So I'm not talking about the internals very much, since there are none. So this is by no means an ordinary STRAYVEN. A lot more happened to it, a lot more bodywork. So let's talk about all the details and then talk about the paint job and the choices. In the back you can see still the Nerf Raven as normal for a STRAYVEN. So this is the Raven to about here and there. Then we have the Strife sitting in here, which will be the functioning blaster. And the Strife's about here. And then in the front I have added a Centurion rail piece, as well as the original Raven grip. So for the STRAYVEN to come in existence, you have to cut off the Raven grip down here at the Strife into the Raven. And then I have this grip left over. So this is the original Raven grip that normally sits about here. And then this is actually a second Raven grip. Since I've built several STRAYVENs, I have a few extra grips. And turned this into like a really comfortable foregrip. And it is angled this way because he wants to use it with a drum magazine, so I can't sort of have it going further back and around the magazine shaft. And this is it. But this is really, really comfortable. Like, it's a really solid and comfortable grip. Quite like how this turned out. And it's a good idea, and I keep doing this with the leftover Raven grips that I have. So on the other side, I have added parts of a long shot shell that I had laying around. This part right here to bridge this gap here, and also to give this blaster a bit of more of a beefier sort of look, because with this front end and also like the overall look and shape to it, I didn't want this to be an empty spot right here. So I put this on there. And then let's talk about details in the front. Into the Centurion barrel I've added some metal mesh which goes all the way to the back here. Obviously some cloth tape around for decorations. And then I've got two Picatinny rails, one here and one here, and they're both done in a similar fashion. So it's the Strife gap closers 3D printed and glued into place, and then a little bit of plastic on top of those, and then screwed these through the plastic into there, and then epoxied all the way around. So these are very, very solid and actually look like they're part of the shell. There's another Picatinny down here, 3D printed as well. And yeah, moving on backwards, you've probably already spotted the battery door, which is from Thingiverse. And shout out to whoever designed it. I love this design, it's fantastic. Next 3D printed part, obviously the Falling Sky nameplate, and then we have the trigger array, which is the most comfortable mag release for Strife that you could possibly find. It's designed by my good friend Kevin, or as you may know him, Lone Wolf. And if you're interested in these, they're available through my shop, or just contact me or message me. And then up here is the trigger designed by Flatner Skyline, good friend of mine. And this is just such a nice trigger pull. I just love the feel of this. And then the client wanted the original ref trigger, so this kind of hides away in down here. And so I'm like, sweet. As he is doing all the internals himself, I cannot say anything about the clickiness of the switches, but it's going to be good. The battery will be housed in here, which will be a 2S in this battery tray. And this is why we have the extended battery door. Then going further back, a bit more cloth wrap around here. Up here, there is 2 sheets of polycard plates being inserted in the Raven shell and then covered up with these metal bits on both sides, so this side as well. And they are actually screwed in with these 2 screws and held in place. This is the core, which also lights up. So when you open up this right here, you can see a switch, which is glued in here. We flick that on, and there's 4 LEDs that have sort of the yellow ember tone to it, which will then light up the core of this blaster. And this stays on here. These LEDs are powered through 4 AA batteries in the original Raven battery tray. So just wire this there, which is why this is still in place. And that is all the body modifications pretty much. Let's talk about the paint job and why I've made the decisions as I made them and why things look like they do. But before we go there, let me quickly tell you the story behind this. And don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but I think this is really interesting, and actually a lot of that story led into decisions that I've made through this build. So the guy who commissioned this told me about the role, about the character he plays in this LARP, and he is a soldier of a former private contractor special forces unit that was hired to cleanse out certain areas of virus-infected people. Because in this scenario, some virus broke out, and, you know, as always in these kind of scenarios, something happened. And he was part of a special unit that got charged with, like, you know, the hardcore operations kind of thing. So he's seen a bunch of weird things. And by now, he's no longer part of this institution, of this company. He just sort of wanders the world as a Lone Ranger kind of type thing, like a gun for hire, but he still carries the weapon from when he was doing that kind of work. So about the name and the company, I found this file on Thingiverse, and it is already said Monochrome Industries. So for me, this was like, that's perfect. So I made up the story that Monochrome Industries, in fact, in this made-up world, is a company that supplied weapons and tactical gear for special forces and for private contractors and, you know, security personnel and all that, which is why this is actually named MIAPR, which is Monochrome Industries Anti-Personnel Rifle. And then LS-66 because it's my number. And Falling Sky then is the name that the character in-game that he plays gave to his weapon. So the full name, MIAPR LS-66 Falling Sky, came to be through that scenario. And why is this important? Because the paint job, he gave me a little image just up there from a completely different video game saying, look, this is your source of inspiration, something along those lines. I'm like, yep, light blue, blacks, pieces of wood, done. No worries. So I came up with this. And from the back to the front, this is fake wood, painted fake wood, similar to all the other fake woods that I do. If you're interested in this kind of fake wood and how I paint it and want to see a tutorial on that, leave a comment in the description. And if we get enough people interested, I actually make you guys a tutorial, no trouble. We've got this fake wood in the back as, you know, the shoulder stock kind of thing. And then got some light blues and some dark metal and light metal bits and bobs. And so a bit of rust over there, but as you can see, it's not rusty all over the shop. It's rusted in some certain spots, and it is mainly the light blue areas. And the story behind this is, and the story behind the light for me, when Monochrome Industries got charged or got the contract for building specialized weapons to deal with the virus-infested plague that was going on in that scenario, they sort of jumped on that and sort of, yep, okay, and went a little bit overboard and ran out of funds somewhere within the production, because they had to produce a certain core, which is this here, which will then, with the internal system that laces the bullets with a anti-venom, if you want, that would kind of sort of not kill, but somehow disable the virus. So the moment an infected gets shot with one of these bullets laced with this kind of stuff, the virus wasn't able to actually spread from the infected anymore. So this is this kind of thing. You kill the infected, but also you kill the virus within the body. So while they were doing and establishing that technology behind there, they kind of ran out of funds for all the other things, which is why the core of the weapons remained the same, the solid steel and everything. But the shell, they had to sort of go and sort cheaper materials, which is the light blue. The shells that are on here is a different metal and is a cheap metal, and therefore it would rust a lot quicker and deter over time a lot quicker. And this is why you can spot Monochrome Industries rifles in this sort of time frame a lot easier, because the shell is rusty whilst the core actually still is solid steel. And I don't know if you can see this on camera, it's really hard to show off, but I didn't just paint this in a different way. I've used some black mortar on top of this to actually give this a different feel and structure. So you can see this right here. This actually, like, it feels like it is cast iron, which is what I was going for. So all the blue parts are laced with this. Oh, you can see it on here. See it quite nicely, actually. Yeah, there. All these blue parts are actually laced with these black Mica mortar. I'm going to link it in the description, which is a fantastic stuff. And then they're painted in a different way. So this is why this blaster is not fully rusted and fully dirt and halfway fallen apart, but only in some spots. So this battery door is actually laced with the same black Mica mortar. And if you remember, I've posted a little post about how to make 3D printed parts look like metal, and that was actually that door. And yeah, so it's also painted in a different technique. So I was using a sponge painting technique for this kind of rust, while the other rust is painted with a brush. So it looks slightly different as well. So the rust between, let's say, down there and up here looks slightly different. It's really hard in this light. It looks different because it's a different material, so it would normally look a little bit different. I quite hope you like this story, because it gave me so much motivation to paint this blaster as it is now. And yep, so that's the core, and that's why the core is in there. And also the fact that you can enable, like, switch it on and off, so you can enable and disable the core, which is when you don't need, when you're not hunting down infected and you don't need the core lacing your bullets, you can just switch it off and you don't need it. You just use it as a normal sort of weapon. And I really hope that this fits into the theme of the entire LARP, because the fun thing is I don't play that LARP. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching. This was the video, and thank you guys for sticking around till the end. Hear me mumble about the stories and why I did what I did and all that. This is fantastic. If there's anything in this video about the techniques that I'm using that you'd like to know more about and you can't find a tutorial on my channel yet, write a comment in the description and let me know, because I'm always happy to share what I do. And if you want to know more about the internal details of this, as well as of plenty of my other builds, you maybe consider checking out my Patreon. Like, if you support me through Patreon, that would mean the world to me. And what you get over there is videos and photos and in-depth builds behind the scenes from all the projects that I'm working on or have worked on in the past. So shout out to my patrons, you guys are amazing. Other than that, there's not much more to say. Please check out my website, check out the videos linked on screen now, as well as my social media, my Instagram or Facebook, as well as my Etsy shop if you want something. If you need a commission, email for the commission is in the description as well. Get in touch. And until then, happy modding, happy nerfing, love and sunshine.